All right, so for 4.7, we're going to do we're going to solve these quadratics with what we call the quadratic formula. Now, the quadratic formula, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but basically, remember that if I have ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, and then I complete the square, which is what we learned how to do yesterday. Now, what I mean by complete the square is we go through and we add 1/2 bx squared to both sides, all that stuff, right? Yes. Go ahead. What we end up with, and this is the, if we go through that whole thing, we end up with, and then we solve for x, we can actually get this, which is negative b squared. No, not negative b squared. It's negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So this is the quadratic formula. Now this will work every time. Now factoring is really easy, graphing is really easy, but there are some situations where you can't factor with even numbers. In other words, it won't be an integer like x plus 4 times x plus 2 or something like that. Although this will certainly give you the right answer if you have a problem such as that. So, but remember, this formula calls for a, b, and c, and to recognize what a, b, and c are, a is the coefficient of x squared, b is the coefficient of x, and then c is just a constant. All right. So it doesn't have to be set equal to 0. No, you just need to know what a, b, and c are. So if I look at example number 1, they give us the following equation, and they ask us to solve 2x squared minus x is equal to 4, and they want to know, basically they want to know the solutions. Now remember that the solutions are the same as the zeros, and we also sometimes refer to them as the roots. So on a standardized test, if they say find the roots of this quadratic equation, what they're saying is find the zeros. What they're really meaning is find the solution. All three words are kind of synonymous.
Ooh.
That's a fancy word, huh? Like that?
Fancy.
All right, so now if I subtract 4 from both sides, I'll say 2x squared minus x minus 4 equals 0. Now, the reason I wrote it that way is that lets me know that a is equal to 2, b is equal to negative 1, and then c is equal to negative 4. Okay? Well, now I can just plug this into my quadratic formula. A couple things about the quadratic formula. Well, let's write it out first. So x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. One thing I want to point out, and we'll talk about this a lot in pre-calculus, I just want to highlight it now. This negative, or this b squared minus 4ac, this has a special term. It's called the discriminant. I think I misspelled discriminant. Maybe I did. I don't know.
Nope.
So the discriminant, if that's a negative value, in other words, if b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, if it's a negative value, remember we can't take the square root of a negative value, so this would be what we call a complex solution. I don't think you have any of those in your homework today, but I just want to throw that out there. Because I think somebody was working on Khan Academy and they said, what's the discriminant? And I said, oh, it's b squared minus 4ac. And they're like, oh, yeah, you're right. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't relate to the homework today, but it does relate to school. All right. So now let's just plug in our values. X is equal to negative 1 plus or minus negative 1 squared minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is negative 4. All over 2 times a, which is actually 2 times 2. So what I've done is I plugged in 2 for a, negative 1 for b. I should put equals negative 1. And then c is equal to negative 4. So wherever there was a c in the formula, I plugged in negative 4. So I've got x When you minus a minus, it becomes a plus, so it's 1 plus the square root of 1 minus 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 4 is 32. You have a negative times a positive, which is negative times a negative again, so this is a positive 32 all over 2 times 2, which is 4. You guys with me so far?
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool.
This isn't.
So now, from here, what we need to do is I've got x is equal to 1 plus or minus the square root of 33 over 4. Now, in several different textbooks, there's lots of ways that you can set this stuff up, your solution. If you were in my calculus class, I would say just leave it this way. If you're in my pre-calculus class, I would say set it up this way.
About algebra.
But for algebra 2, because your textbook says to do it this way, this is how I want you to do it. Just separate it. Just say x is equal to 1 plus the square root of 33 all over 4, and x is equal to 1 minus the square root of 33.
Oh, no.
I don't want a decimal approximation, though. We got to start getting used to seeing what we call exact values. The square root of 33 is an irrational number. Usually in these cases, when we have these values, we plug them back in or we multiply them by a conjugate or something, so the square roots kind of go away. But it's better to leave it as an exact value.